Hello, soap fans, welcome back to our channel for another deep dive into the relentless, heart-stopping drama of Genoa City. Grab your coffee and settle in, because today we are unpacking a family betrayal that will leave you absolutely speechless. The Abbott family is no stranger to scandal, but what we are about to discuss crosses every single moral boundary we thought they had left. Betrayal wears many faces, but it stings the most when it wears the face of a father. The Abbott mansion, usually a beacon of legacy, refined power, and generational wealth, has just become the epicenter of a psychological earthquake. We all knew Jack Abbott was playing a dangerous game by inviting the notoriously unstable Patty Williams back into his orbit. We knew his thirst for vengeance against the ruthless Victor Newman was blinding him to the collateral damage. But nothing could have prepared us for the sickening truth hiding beneath his polished, patriarchal veneer. Jack is not just playing with fire, he is playing with human lives. He is orchestrating a masterclass in emotional abuse, and the fallout is going to be catastrophic. For weeks, Kyle Abbott has been watching his father with a growing sense of dread and suffocating anxiety. The signs were all there, hidden in plain sight. The hushed phone calls behind closed doors. The sudden, inexplicable tolerance for Patty's manic energy. Kyle is certainly no stranger to the dark side of Genoa City politics. He has survived corporate espionage, family feuds, and boardroom brawls over Abbott cosmetics. But this felt fundamentally different. This was not a battle over market share or stock prices. This was personal. This was deeply toxic. Kyle's intuition, honed by years of surviving the crossfire between his fiercely combative parents, screamed that Jack was hiding something massive. The sheer recklessness of aligning with Patty defied all logic. Kyle knew he had to dig deeper. He had to uncover the truth, even if it tore his family apart. The investigation began in the shadows of the Abbott estate. Kyle, driven by a gnawing, relentless anxiety, turned the Abbott study upside down. The tension in the room was palpable. The antique clock on the wall ticked loudly, echoing like a heartbeat in the silent mansion. Every creak of the floorboard sounded like a blaring alarm. He sifted through confidential files. He checked the digital logs on the private servers. He scoured the hidden compartments of Jack's massive mahogany desk. The air in the room felt heavy, almost suffocating. Kyle knew he was crossing a massive line by invading his father's privacy, but the stakes were simply too high. He had to know if the patriarch of the Abbott family had completely lost his mind. He needed absolute proof. Then, he found it, a hidden digital folder buried deep within a secure drive. A series of encrypted notes, drafted messages, and strategic outlines. Kyle's eyes scanned the glowing screen. His blood ran instantly cold. The words stared back at him, dripping with calculated malice and cold-blooded intent. Jack's master plan was laid bare in black and white, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Yes, Patty Williams was being used as a weapon aimed directly at Victor Newman. That much was obvious to anyone paying attention, but the notes revealed a second, far more sinister objective. Jack was using Patty to manipulate Diane Jenkins. It was a dual-pronged attack of emotional warfare. Jack wanted to twist the knife in Diane's heart. He wanted to orchestrate a scenario so devastating, so fraught with jealousy and insecurity, that Diane would be forced right back into his arms, utterly dependent on his validation. And this is the moment I almost screamed at the screen. Jack Abbott, the supposed moral compass of the Abbott family, the man who constantly preaches about honor, integrity, and protecting the ones you love, was treating two deeply vulnerable women like disposable pawns on a chessboard. Kyle's reaction was visceral. You could see the exact moment his heart shattered into a million pieces. The lifelong idolization of his father evaporated in an instant, replaced by a sickening, overwhelming wave of disgust. Kyle stared at the screen, his hands trembling with a mixture of rage and profound sorrow. How could Jack stoop this incredibly low? How could he exploit Patty's fragile mental state just to score points in a twisted romantic game? To truly understand the gravity of Jack's sins, we have to look back at the tragic, blood-soaked history of Patty Williams. Patty is not just a pawn, she is a deeply traumatized woman whose grip on reality is tenuous at best. Her relentless obsession with Jack has defined her entire adult life. It has driven her to madness, to psychiatric institutions, and to the darkest, most violent corners of human desperation. She genuinely believes in a fairy tale romance with Jack that never actually existed. She carries the phantom pain of a lost child, a trauma that Jack himself is intimately tied to. For Jack to weaponize that specific trauma, to dangle the cruel carrot of his affection just to use her as a human shield against Victor, is nothing short of diabolical. It is psychological torture masquerading as strategy. And then there is Diane Jenkins, Kyle's mother, a woman who has made her own fair share of catastrophic, unforgivable mistakes. Diane is certainly no saint. She famously faked her own death. She manipulated, she lied, she abandoned her son, but she returned to Genoa City to rebuild her bond with Kyle. She has been trying, in her own deeply flawed way, to earn back the trust of the Abbott family. For Jack to orchestrate a shadow campaign designed specifically to play on her deepest insecurities, to trigger her jealousy, and to emotionally break her down so he can swoop in and play the savior, is a level of toxicity that defies comprehension. It is a betrayal of the highest order, striking at the very core of whatever fragile trust they had managed to rebuild. Kyle did not wait to confront the monster his father had become. He couldn't. The anger boiling inside him demanded an immediate, explosive reckoning. He printed the damning documents. He held the physical proof of his father's depravity tightly in his hands, the paper crinkling under his grip. He paced the hardwood floor of the Abbott living room. The grand portraits of his ancestors seemingly looked down in silent judgment. The silence of the mansion was deafening, the calm before an apocalyptic storm. When Jack finally walked through the heavy oak front door, looking every bit the confident and touchable CEO of Jabbit Cosmetics, Kyle felt a surge of pure, unadulterated rage. The storm had officially arrived. The confrontation exploded, short, sharp, brutal. Kyle didn't hold back. He threw the papers. They hit the coffee table with a slap. They scattered like dead leaves. "Explain this." Jack froze. His eyes locked on the documents. The color drained from his face. The polished veneer cracked. He was caught. There was nowhere to hide. Kyle's voice shook with a devastating mix of fury and heartbreak. He laid out every single sickening detail. He exposed the manipulation. He called out the cruelty. He demanded to know how his father could even look at himself in the mirror. There in the room crackled with suffocating tension. It was a father and son, standing on the absolute precipice of total destruction. Jack's defense was nothing short of pathetic. It was the desperate, hollow rationalization of a man who has completely lost his moral way. He tried to spin it. He claimed it was a necessary evil. He called it a strategic masterstroke in the endless, brutal war against the Newman Empire. He argued that Patty was a willing participant, that she knew exactly what she was doing. He stubbornly insisted that his endgame with Diane was born out of love, a twisted, convoluted attempt to break through her emotional walls and force a genuine reconciliation. Jack tried to wrap his cruelty in the noble and tarnished flag of protecting the Abbott legacy. He expected Kyle to understand the harsh realities of their world. He expected his son to fall in line. Kyle was not buying a single, deceitful word of it. He cut through Jack's pathetic excuses with surgical, merciless precision. He condemned Jack for his staggering lack of ethics. "You are exploiting a sick woman, Dad," Kyle roared, the raw pain echoing off the mansion walls. He pointed out the sheer, blinding hypocrisy of Jack's actions. Jack was acting infinitely worse than Victor Newman ever had. He was using Patty's severe mental illness as a loaded weapon. He was playing a sick game of Russian roulette with Diane's emotional stability. Kyle made it crystal clear to the man who raised him. This was not a brilliant strategy. This was abuse. It was a ruthless, cold-blooded manipulation of human emotion, and Kyle absolutely refused to be complicit in it. The fundamental dynamic of the Abbott family fractured permanently in that very room. You could almost hear the physical sound of breaking glass as years of loyalty shattered. The trust between Kyle and Jack, a bond that has weathered countless corporate takeovers, public scandals, and personal tragedies, was fundamentally and irrevocably severed. Kyle looked at his father, no longer seeing a hero or a mentor, but seeing a cold, calculating stranger. The horrifying realization that Jack was capable of such profound emotional violence changed everything. Jack stood there in silence, the crushing weight of his son's judgment pressing down on him, finally realizing the catastrophic cost of his arrogance. He had won the strategic battle in his mind, but he had lost his son in reality. Now, Kyle is left standing at a terrifying, lonely crossroads. The immense burden of this toxic truth rests squarely on his shoulders. He holds the power to destroy Jack's entire house of cards with a single conversation. The undeniable evidence is in his hands. The question is no longer what Jack has done, but what Kyle will choose to do next. He is agonizing over the ultimate, soul-crushing dilemma. Does he protect his father, bury the evidence, and become a silent accessory to this psychological warfare? Or does he blow the whistle, expose the rot at the core of the Abbott family, and let the chips fall where they may? If Kyle chooses to stay silent, he is knowingly allowing his mother, Diane, to walk blindly into a devastating emotional trap. He is allowing her to be manipulated, gaslight, and controlled by the man she foolishly trusts. He knows that if Diane finds out the truth on her own and in the gossipy, incestuous world of Genoa City, the truth always inevitably comes out. The fallout will be apocalyptic. Diane's fragile stability will shatter into a million pieces. Her wrath will be biblical. Kyle desperately wants to protect his mother from that pain, but he also knows that telling her the truth will ignite a war that will consume the entire Abbott family. It will undoubtedly be the bitter end of Jack and Diane, and quite possibly, the end of Kyle's relationship with his father forever. And what about Patty Williams? Kyle's conscience is relentlessly tortured by the thought of leaving her in Jack's dangerous crosshairs. Patty is a walking, talking ticking time bomb. If Jack's manipulation pushes her over the psychological edge, the consequences could be literally lethal. We have all seen what Patty is capable of when she feels betrayed or abandoned. She is wildly unpredictable. She is incredibly dangerous. By exposing Jack's sick plan, Kyle could potentially save Patty from a total psychological collapse. But he also risks triggering her wrath prematurely. Patty might turn her manic, violent obsession onto Kyle himself, or she might lash out at Diane in a fit of misguided, homicidal jealousy. The tension is absolutely unbearable. Every single second Kyle hesitates. Jack's toxic, multi-layered plan moves closer to its devastating conclusion. The Abbott mansion has become a gilded house of lies, built on a rotting foundation of deceit and emotional exploitation. Kyle Abbott, the golden boy, the heir apparent, is now the reluctant keeper of the darkest, most dangerous secret in Genoa City. He must make a choice that will alter the course of his family's history forever. There is no easy way out. There is no clean, painless resolution. There is only the brutal, unforgiving truth, and the devastating, inescapable fallout that will inevitably follow. This storyline has completely redefined the boundaries of the Abbott family. It has violently stripped away the illusion of Jack's nobility and exposed a ruthless, calculating predator hiding in plain sight behind a tailored suit. Kyle's agonizing journey from a loyal, trusting son to a disgusted, horrified whistleblower is one of the most compelling and tragic arcs we have seen on this show in years. The emotional stakes have never been higher. The collateral damage to Diane, Patty, and the Abbott legacy will be immense. Will Kyle find the courage to destroy his father's twisted game in order to save his mother from emotional ruin? Or will the crushing weight of the Abbott legacy force him into a devastating, complicit silence?